Well, hi Michelle, I'm Peter Cundy, and this is my MG that I'm taking in the Beta Burwood run this year. It's a 1934 NA. It's always been used as a race car. It came out from the UK in 1935 and brought out by a chap from Sydney called John Snow. I've had the car for 2 years. I bought it off a chap called Bob Fast up in Brisbane, and he'd owned it for 34 years, so it's a long ownership with Bob. And since I've had it, I've done a fair bit of work getting it ready for racing, and particularly the Beta Burwood this year. Alright, so on there are a limited number of 6-cylinder MGs produced, and this is probably the largest number in the N series in the 1930s, mid-1930s. So it's got a 6-cylinder engine, and so you can see the 6 spark plugs coming up there. They had a magneto type of distributor. Twin SUs, which are very common in the carburetors for the MGs, but the 6-cylinder engine gives you a lot more power, a lot more torque. It has an unusual arrangement for the radiator. There's no overfill here. It's not a pressurised system, and any excess steam runs out through the little pipe and down the back. It has cable brakes, as we can see down here. They're not hydraulic. That means you need a fairly strong right foot to stop. There's no power assist, and cables have a bit of more friction in them than hydraulic brakes. A central part of old MGs is lots of tools for repairs on the way, and they tend to chew through spark plugs like nobody's business, so you need plenty of spare spark plugs to change. In the back here are fairly standard controls. You've got a tachometer which combines as your speedo. You've got a pull button for your start, an ammeter and an oil pressure gauge, and there's a temperature gauge there as well. A central part in all these old cars is a fire extinguisher, because we do get petrol leaks from time to time. Around the back of the car, we can see the different rear on it. This has been on this car since it was produced in '34, so it's a beetle bottom or a canoe stern, but really a beetle bottom, not dissimilar to some of the early Bugattis. And in its early days, it had a cone over the back here as a spoiler at the back to presumably protect the driver's head if they rolled over. These cars can roll over if you put radial tyres on them. So they always have cross-ply type tyres, so when you go around a corner, you're meant to drift it around the corner. If you put radial tyres on it, they grip and the car will roll over. So always have cross-plies and make sure you drift it around the corner. They're a lot of fun to drive, fairly wild. This car is particularly powerful. It has longer length pistons and generates an enormous amount of power, which I'm still developing as we move along with the restoration. I'll start. Okay, well, Michelle, this year I've entered this car in the Beta Burwood. And as it's a racing vehicle, I hope to come first, but of course it's not a race. I've enjoyed the Beta Burwood. I used to go in it in the other red TD there with my father, and I've taken the London taxi in it for a number of years as well, and that's a lot of fun for a picnic at the Beta Burwood. But the things I love about the Beta Burwood is the car park at the start, lots of other vehicles to look at, and people come and engage and talk about their knowledge of the sort of car that you've got. And I do love looking at the other cars. I think the other great joy is going up Anzac Highway. There's always a big crowd there. We always wave at them, they always wave back, and hopefully it's a sunny day. But it's quite a picnic carnival atmosphere, which is also, when you get to up to Birdwood, it's a lovely day up there, a lovely picnic atmosphere, plenty of food and drink, and again lots of cars to look at and people to talk to. So those are the main attractions for me. and it's a nice slow run up there usually, but we'll see how we go with a bit of extra revs on the day. Yeah. Alright, so this car's got no synchro mesh, so every time you change gears you've got to double the clutch. So you'll have it in first going along, you push the clutch in, put it into second, give it a bit of a rev, push the clutch down again and go into second, and do the same thing when you're going up into third. Quite a challenge to get the revs just right, to get a smooth gear change. The other thing is when you want to go into reverse, you flick up this little gate, which then allows you to crack it across that way and hopefully go into reverse like that. So that stops you when you're driving it going into reverse by mistake. And the other thing I should mention is it's got reverse pattern. So most cars are first, second, third, fourth. This one it's the opposite, it's first, second on the side closest to the driver, and then third and fourth are on the other side. So every time I drive it I've got to remember that it's the reverse pattern, so I'm not starting off in third and changing to fourth.
Michelle, the other nice thing about these old cars is your involvement with the car clubs, and I'm a member of the MG Car Club of South Australia, and the chaps there have been fantastic. When you get a special old car like this, you need help from these other guys, and people like Bob Bazica and Bob Chappell and Ray Finch have been tremendous in advice to me and helping me to restore the old car. So the Beta Birdwood supports that, I think. It promotes people who go along as the car club, and it's one of the joys of mateship and men's shed type activities, which are very important for men and women in the car industry and for their lives in general.